All right, everybody. Hello. My name is Sophia Gibri. I'm the director of the Upward Bound program. And today we have with us Geraldin Diaz. She is a Dominican author based out of Brooklyn, New York. And in her book, Reroute, Post-Grad Guide to Success Physically, Mentally, and Financially, she discusses how to navigate postgraduate life and provides tips and tricks on job searching, personal development, along with habit and goal setting. If you ever feel lost and need some help and motivation, Reroute is a welcome addition to your library. Geraldine speaks to students who are looking at success and authentic self-care for the first time, and she is joining us today to share some of her wisdom with everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I do have some prepared questions for her, but as we move through the conversation, if anyone has any questions that come up, feel free to just put those in the chat and we'll get to them at the end of our discussion. So can you just start off by talking about how your personal experience or identity influenced your passion for writing Reroute?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here, Sophia. And I'm so happy to be speaking with all of you. And I hope that what I say, you all are able to resonate with and really understand and feel empowered by the words that I say. So, a little bit about my personal experience. Growing up, I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood in downtown Brooklyn. And I always felt like I was around violence. I was around gun violence. I was around gang violence. I was around a lot of fighting. Like my outcome in life was not supposed to be what it is right now. Short put. And I felt like I wasn't really surrounding myself with the individuals that I could have been surrounding myself with when I was younger, just because we all were growing up with the same things. So we were always in fight or flight mode. So I took the initiative in high school actually to get out of Brooklyn. So while I was still living in downtown Brooklyn, I was like, oh, there's no necessarily good schools in high school at the time. Not necessarily any good high schools at the time in downtown Brooklyn. So I decided to go to Harlem for school, which is in Manhattan, for those of you that don't know. I used to commute 45 minutes to an hour every single day to go to high school. And this was really where I discovered um, my people. I discovered really who I was as an individual. I started exploring different things. So I joined cheerleading. I started joining clubs and I was really putting myself out there. So that was like my first, I guess, little time away from home. And it was scary because, you know, my parents are Dominican. So they were like, why are you going so far for school? And like, why are you going to Harlem? Like Harlem is such a bad place. And I'm like, well, so is Brooklyn. So I need to pick and choose my battles. And at the time, my high school was one of the best in the city. So I just decided to take the leap of faith and go there. And then thus ended up going to Binghamton University and everything just sprung forward after that.
Nice. And what are some of the benefits and challenges that you feel like you're facing now as an entrepreneur?
Some of the benefits that I'm facing, I would say, are definitely being able to create my own schedule. So that's like a very close similarity in college. In college, you're also able to create your own schedule. So right now, I wake up at the time that I want to wake up, which for me is at 6 in the morning every single day to get my workout in the morning. I highly, highly recommend everybody work out. Start working out as soon as you can because it's something that really sets up a nice routine to your day. And I also tell my friends all the time, I'm like, you know, even if you don't do that much in your day, you don't cross off that many tasks off your to-do list. The fact that you got up and you exercise, it's already gonna help you just get a lot more done in your day and also just help your mental health as well as your physical health. So definitely creating my own schedule is one of my benefits. And I say this all the time. My success depends on me. And that's the same thing for y'all. Your success depends on you. So either you could look at the circumstances that you're in and be sad about them, or you could look at the circumstances that you're in and see them as opportunities to propel yourself forward. So for me, I left my job back at the end of February, start of March, and 2021, and I was scared. I didn't really have a plan, but I was like, okay, now my success really depends on myself, and now it's time to essentially have a hustler mentality and just get into hustle mode to sell my books and to promote my business and to really put myself out there. So I've been able to learn a lot through that as well. I would say one of the downfalls is that you do not have steady income with being an entrepreneur. And there's a lot of long hours to be worked. I feel like a lot of people oftentimes think, oh, being an entrepreneur, being a business person is just so great and you just get lots of money. You have so much free time. And that comes later on. In the beginning, it might not be like that. You're going to be putting in really long hours, but essentially, you're going to be working towards something that you genuinely care about. And you're going to reap the seeds that you sow, essentially.
Yeah, I like how you really touched on the realities there and like how you have a set schedule that you kind of go to, you wake up early and that you're kind of working towards that more of that kind of freedom aspect of being an entrepreneur. So, do you have any tips or maybe an example of what you did to reach a goal that you had set for yourself that you could share with everybody?
Yes. So, this might be something that's very common amongst a lot of people. So I dealt with really bad weight issues. So while I was in Binghamton University, I put on a lot of weight. I was at my heaviest. I was 240 pounds. I was uncomfortable with the way that I was feeling, with the way that I was looking. I didn't have energy to do anything. I didn't have energy to go to class. It was really, really, really bad. Um, so I decided this was like my June end of junior year, start of senior year. I looked at myself and I saw pictures of myself and I was like, wow, you really let yourself go, girl. Like you really let yourself go. And after that, I was just like, okay. After I graduated, I was like, you need to get it together. And the real reality check came in when my doctor told me you're pre-diabetic, and if you keep going down the route that you're going, you are going to end up with diabetes. And that was like a slap in the face to me. And it was a huge wake up call. And I was like, well, I need to fix my, like what I'm doing now. I need to fix my exercise routine. That's why I tell everybody you should start exercising as soon as you can, as young as you are. It's so beneficial to you. And also nutrition. I used to eat a lot of junk. Many of you may know Binghamton does not have the best selection of food. So where did I used to go? I used to go to Popeyes. I used to go to McDonald's. I used to go to the chicken spot and I used to eat a lot of unhealthy foods. And I truly believe in this saying that my mentor told me. She told me, you need to feed yourself high quality foods because you are a high quality individual. And I tell myself that every single day. When I have the urge to like eat McDonald's fries, I'm like, that's low quality food. And that's not to say that I don't eat McDonald's fries from time to time anymore, but it's just like I start thinking more consciously about what I'm putting in my body. So back to the goal. I had a goal of losing 15 pounds at the start. I had to start small and then work my way up. So I was going to the gym. I did not like the gym. I tell everybody, if you do not like going to the gym, don't go to the gym because you're going to hate it there. So I didn't like going to the gym. I quit the gym. Then I'm trying home workouts. The home workouts, there's like lack of accountability there. So then I was like, okay, I can't do the home workouts. And this was all directly after I graduated from college. Uh, so then I found my true passion, which was kickboxing, which me being a young woman of color, I felt was very essential for me because I need to be able to defend myself. I live in New York City, in a very chaotic city where there's a lot of violence out there. And I was like, if I could be able to defend myself and then God forbid I see an elderly person getting robbed or something, I can step in because now I know how to defend myself and I know how to defend others as well. So that was one of the reasons that I did kickboxing. I ended up falling in love with it, and then I quit my job. So then what happened? I had to let go of kickboxing because it wasn't in my finances anymore. I picked up running. I started running races. I loved running. And now I'm doing CrossFit. So I say all of this to say that sometimes you need to break down your goals into smaller things. So it may be like, okay, I want to lose 15 pounds across what time period do you want to lose it? Do you want to lose it in a month? Do you want to lose it in 2 months, 3 months, and so on? How many pounds do you want to lose per week? What are you eating? How many times are you exercising? So just breaking things down into smaller steps so you don't overwhelm yourself with these huge goals that you set out for yourself. And writing things down. I have a to-do list that I'm looking at right now. My whiteboard, I look at that every single day and I'm like, okay, until I'm done with these tasks, I'm not going to sleep because it holds me accountable to the things that I want to get done.
Yeah, I think, that fitness goal is a great example of how you incorporated SMART goals in there, right? Like you made sure they were realistic, measurable. And then also the aspect of how you kind of felt out and tried what worked for you, is another thing to really consider when, working towards those goals and not to be discouraged, right? When you kind of experience those setbacks, it speaks right to your title, right? That reroute. Um, so you do also talk about authentic self-care. So I wanted to see if you could kind of define that for us and then talk about how students can achieve it.
Yes. So one thing that I would say is authenticity is a word that is getting thrown around a lot, yeah, on this day and age. People are like, I'm authentic self-care, all this bunch of stuff. Authentic looks different to everybody. To me, that may be like it may be like reading. My authentic self-care, it's reading. I love reading. I didn't love reading while I was in college, if I'm being completely honest, because it was something that was forced upon me. Now I have the leisure, I have the choice to be able to pick up the books that I want. So what this looks like is basically creating something that aligns with your goals, and it's relaxing for you while still being true to yourself. So I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, face mask. Excuse me. A lot of people are like, oh, face mask. Um, if you don't like doing face masks, then why are you doing them? Like, it looks different for everybody. So I would say find a routine that works for you and try the options out, because sometimes you may like something for like a month and then you end up not liking it. So if your self-care routine has to keep switching up, that's okay. You're figuring yourself out. You're still young. There's an abundance of opportunity out there. It's perfectly okay to like switch things up and to change your personal brand, as a lot of people call it. So for me, what authentic self-care looks like is showing up as real as possible in every space that I'm in. I say it all the time. The same person that you get on LinkedIn is the same person that you're getting on Instagram. That's the same person that you're getting right here, right now, face to face. So aside from that, yes, I love reading. I love cooking, finding things that bring you real joy, because there's a lot of things in life that can stress you out. School can stress you out. Showing up for meetings may stress you out. Talking may stress you out if you're not somebody that's very vocal or doesn't like to express themselves vocally. So definitely doing something that works for you, and not, and also there's an aspect of community to bring into and self-care too. I think when you go with community, you go farther. So my friends may not do the same exact thing as me on a day-to-day basis, but there's still accountability there, and we're still all working towards our goals, and we're still taking care of ourselves and taking care of our minds and our bodies, even if that looks like slightly different things to each of us.
Yeah, definitely bringing the community. And I don't often hear that when people talk about self-care. So, can you talk about a roadblock you faced in your career and how you really found the motivation to overcome it?
Yes. So a roadblock that I faced was definitely when I had to decide to quit my job. So that was very hard for me. That was like my first big girl job out of college. Excuse me. And for me, I was just like, I felt so crappy about the whole situation. I worked for a great company. I had great benefits. I had a great manager, great team. Everything was amazing. But a little bit about sales. When you are selling something, you have to be passionate about it, because if you are not passionate about it, people will receive that energy and you're not going to be selling anything. You're not going to be generating money for the business. So for me, I wasn't passionate about what I was selling. So at the moment, I kid you not, it was from one week to another, I just became depressed. And I was like, well, I haven't seen my old friend depression in such a long time. And from one week to another, I did not want to get out of bed. I didn't want to show up to Zoom meetings. I just didn't want to do anything. So I had to speak with my manager and have a very honest conversation with both of them, the account executive that I was working under and my manager. And they were like, you know what? We saw it coming and we respect your decision. And everybody was fully supportive of my decision. They didn't want me to leave the company, but they were like, we completely understand why. And that was a roadblock for me because I'm like, I felt so privileged to be in such a great company, but then I was like, am I gonna sacrifice my mental health to stay at this job? And I had so many goals. I'm like, I want to pay off my student loans by October. It's hanging over my head. I don't want to lose my job because then where's the money gonna go? I only have a certain amount of money in my savings account. I don't want to tap into savings. I have a lot of plans that I want to execute this year. But ultimately, I did the decision that was best for me. And I could not have been happier with my decision. And it allowed me to grow a lot as well. So it was a roadblock, but essentially allowed me to reroute in my life and just end up where I am today.
Yeah, it sounds like you definitely kind of went through different values that were important to you when making that decision, which is always, a good way to go when making those life-changing decisions. So, what would you say is the skill that you're most proud of learning? And then what skills do you recommend students develop to prepare for college?
Um, One of the most valuable skills that I've learned has been, I'm like, I can say sales because sales is such a great, I'll get into that in a little bit. Sales is a great skill to learn. Um, I would say empathy. And I think empathy is something that's not really discussed nowadays, but empathy helps you in everything in life. So with empathy comes putting yourself in other people's shoes. A lot of people like me and like the way that I am because I'm able to see these things. So I'm not somebody that's gonna be like, for example, some people may be rude to waiters at a restaurant, right? The food comes out late, they mess the food up, they mess the drink up. Oh my God, I came to this restaurant. This is a terrible experience. The way I see it is they mess up your food. They probably have been working here for several hours. They're on their feet. They're tired. They're not getting paid enough. They're dealing with cranky customers, and there's just this all these type of stuff. So at that point, I'm able to shift the whole entire table's perspective, and they're like, you know what, you're right. Like we don't even have to be mad. Like we're privileged to be able to even come out and eat. So that's what I mean by like having empathy and being able to put yourself in other people's shoes. Um, I think that's such a valuable skill to have because when people see that you're empathetic, then they start to like give you that same energy back. And this could go with like being with with professors too. I remember so many times during college, I'd be struggling with stuff, and I'll just come up to them and I'll be real authentic, real empathetic, and I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't get what's going on in this class, and quite frankly, I think I'm gonna fail your class, and I need help. You need to be able to ask for help as well. So with this, I was able to get the grades that I essentially wanted because I was able to be open with my professors. They were able to, I was empathetic with them and they were empathetic back with me. So yeah, that's enough on empathy. Some of the skills that I believe students should learn going into college and then through college is definitely sales. And it's not just selling a product, it's selling yourself. So when I think about sales, it's when you go into an interview, you're selling yourself to a company, for example. Right now, you could see this as like me selling my story to you guys. So you guys can like me or whatever. Um, Also, with sales comes relationship building. I feel like a lot of people think that it's monetary exchange, but in reality, sales is just energy exchange, relationship building. Something else that I think students should have is resiliency. So being resilient is being able to come through adversity and come out stronger on the other end. And resiliency is something that, quite frankly, a lot of people don't have. Like you get stuck on what's in the past, the bad things that are going on, but you go through these certain obstacles in your life and they just make you stronger essentially. So I've been through a lot of things in my lifetime, but I'm very grateful that I was able to go through them because essentially they made me stronger. And now I'm able to better manage certain situations because of these experiences, because I was able to be resilient and just shine through it. Something else is being very good with communication. So you need to have good communication skills. I suffered all through college because my communication skills were not the best. They were really good with teachers, but I am a part of a sorority. And with my sorority sisters, with my chapter sisters, my communication was not good at all. They'll be like, Geraldine, you need to get this, that, and the fourth done. You need to get all these tasks done by next week. And I always show up and I never knew how to ask them for help. And it's like, these are the people closest to me. These are my friends. These are my sisters. So why can't I communicate with them what I need help with? So definitely be able to communicate. It's not scary to communicate. It's not as scary as you think. The worst that can happen is somebody tells you no, they can't help you, or just no in general. And then you ask somebody else, you just move through it. And the way that I see somebody telling you no, no stands for next opportunity, and you just keep it pushing through life. And again, that goes hand in hand with resiliency. So yes, have and develop great communication skills because it'll take you really far in life.
I definitely love those. We're always trying to, get our students to have that proactive communication and ask for help when needed. And we definitely understand, it can be hard sometimes, but it's the kind of thing I feel anyway, where once you kind of get in the habit of doing it, it becomes easier.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been talking about your book, and topics you've discussed in it, but can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to publish your first book, and to any student that's potentially interested in publishing, just any advice for them?
Yes. So the first thing that I want to touch on is imposter syndrome. Throughout the whole entire process of me creating my first child, I call my book my first child. I felt a lot of imposter syndrome. And for those of you that don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's basically feeling like a fraud the whole entire time that you're doing something. It's like a little voice in your head that tells you, like, you're not good enough. Like, stop doing that. Why are you doing this? So for me, being so young, I literally was a few months out of college when I decided that I was going to write Reroute. And I'm writing about how to navigate postgraduate life. It's like, who does this girl think she is? There was so many days that I wanted to give up. And I'm like, I felt like such a fraud just writing my book. The whole entire time I felt like a fraud. But ultimately, I was like, God, I don't know what you guys believe in, but I was like, God was not going to give me this idea if I couldn't execute it, you know? And I also had a very different journey than my friends did post college because I was putting myself in uncomfortable positions because I needed to grow. So it looked a lot like going to networking events where I was the youngest person in the room, and I would go in with a notepad and a pen, and everybody that was speaking, I was taking notes. I was just taking notes. At the time, I didn't really know why I was taking notes, but eventually that created the content that I ended up putting in the book. And I'm like, wow, look how the stars aligned for me. I was just taking tons of notes at every networking event that I went to. And it can also be very intimidating when you go to these events and people are like 10 years, 10 plus years in their industry, and they're like, hey, so what do you do? And you're like, nothing. I just graduated college. What do you mean? What do I do? So for me, I was just like, yeah, like this is little old me. I just came to a networking event. I'm trying to figure out my life. People will ask me and they're like, and I would just be like, honestly, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with my life and with myself, if I'm being completely honest. And they'll just be like, wow, like good for you. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing. And there was so many times that I would ask my friends to join me and they were like, yeah, I'm not going. And I could have very easily been mad, or I could have very easily not shown up to the networking events. But I was like, you know what? My success does not depend on my friend. My success depends on me and only me. So I was just like, cool, you guys don't want to go? Cool. Y'all will find jobs how y'all find jobs. I'm gonna find my jobs through networking and through meeting people. So that's what ultimately ended up happening. But yes, throughout the entire process, I felt a lot of imposter syndrome. But I'm very grateful that I had a really, really good publishing company that I was working with. So there's different types of publishing. There's traditional publishing, which is like the Penguin House, and all these big corporations that you may hear of. Like when you look at textbooks, the publishers that are in there, those are like the traditional publishers. I went through a non-traditional publisher, and I would call it almost like hybrid publishing. So I worked with them to create my book, but all the royalties, which is all the money that you make from the book, goes directly back to you. I just had to pay the people to essentially bring my book to life. So I had to fundraise. Again, the community aspect comes in. This is why you need to have a community backing you, and you need to speak to people, you need to network. I had my community help me raise over $6,000. They told me that the cost of creating my book was going to be $6,000. I did not know where I was going to get this money from. I was scared to ask people for money, but it also enhanced the idea that now I have to finish the book because people gave me their money. And I was like, well, I can't just be a thief and steal their money. I'm just going to have to finish the book now. And the whole entire time I told myself, I was listening to this guy talk, and he said, your book may not be 100% good to you, but it's 100% what somebody else needs to read, needs to see, needs to hear. And that resonated with me so much, because I was like, you know what? Still to this day, I'm like, my book could have been better. There's things that I could have added in there. There's things that I could have taken out. But I'm able now to see that the change that is causing in people's lives. And that's something beautiful to see. I tell everybody, if you want to write a book, just do it. Just do it like Nike says, just do it. You have a book in you. Don't think that you don't. People are like, what am I going to write about? It'll come to you. And if it doesn't come to you, you go on Google. Thank God we have the internet nowadays. Thank God. You go on the internet and you figure out what you want to write about. For me, I felt that this was a need in the market, especially being a young Afro Latina. There's not many books talking about how to navigate life after graduating from college. And if they are, they're not written from my perspective. It's not my words, it's not my experience, it's not my research. So that's why I felt the need to write Reroute.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an inspiring thing, and really just showing how people can find their own uniqueness in their writing. So, okay, so you're back in high school, someone pulls you aside, they say, Geraldine, what, or you're older, you're looking at your high school self, and they say, what advice would you give your high school self today after all that you've learned?
I would say whatever you want to do in life, just do it. Take the risk, shoot your shot, shoot your shot with everything in life. I'm team shoot my shot. At times I'm like, wow, I should have been in the WNBA because I just shoot my shot all the time. So yeah, shoot your shot with everything in life. Don't be scared. Again, the hardest thing that you may have to hear is a no, and that means next opportunity. Some things are not meant to you. They may not make sense in the during the time, but afterwards it's gonna click in your head like, oh, I see why they told me no, or like, oh, I see why this didn't work out. It all makes sense to me now. It all makes sense of the grand scheme of life. Something else that I would say is to be fearless. This is my mantra for life, to be fearless and to live limitless. So what that looks like to me is being fearless. You're living without fear. You're going through life as you wish, because a lot of people die with regrets, and these regrets stem from fear. So I live every single day like it's my last day on earth, because quite frankly, you could be here today and you could be gone tomorrow. And I wish I realized that sooner on in life, because I didn't realize it until I had somebody really close to me pass away, that I'm like, wow, life is so delicate. Like you could really be gone. Um in like the next minute, in the next hour and stuff like that. So really just be fearless and do what you want in life. And then being limitless. My dad tells me something. I'm not gonna say it in Spanish because it's a little bit longer, but basically he says, don't put limits on yourself. Like the human being has no limits except the limits that you put on yourself. And he tells me that every single time that I go visit him, which is quite often. So it's been ingrained in my head already. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have limits. Even when I'm working out or when I'm running, I'm like, I don't have limits. I don't have limits. I may be tired, but I'm like, if you want to keep going, you're gonna keep going. If you're gonna say that you're gonna run a mile, you're only gonna get to that mile because you told yourself already that you're gonna only get to that mile, and so on. But yes, being limitless and being fearless and just do what you want in life. Just live every single day like it's your last because you never know. And tell people that you love them. I think that's so important. Really being human because you could be going through life and you could be studying for classes and you could be working and stuff like that, but also just being human at the core of it all, just telling people how you feel about them. If you feel something, just say it. It's not gonna hurt you to say it. Um, and yeah, just getting your feelings out there. That would be my piece of advice.
Nice. And my last question for you is, we're still going through a global pandemic. Students are super zoomed out, tired of, virtual. Do you have any general words of encouragement for students during these times?
Yes, I will say, if you're having trouble during these times and you're really struggling with what you're going through, I would say implement a practice of gratitude. So give me 1 second. I have my gratitude journal. So I think gratitude is the root of all happiness. I really do believe that because when you're grateful, you start realizing all the beauty that is around you. Sometimes in passing, we don't realize everything that we see every single day, you know? So I have this gratitude journal. It says, good days start with gratitude. Cultivate an attitude of gratitude. So on here, you literally, I'll show you guys like an empty page. So it says here, through the eyes of gratitude, everything is a miracle. And then it says, I'm thankful for, and you write 3 things that you're grateful for. And then with this, you write like 3 things that you're grateful for that are not materialistic. So, for example, if I want to write 3 things a day, I'll say, I'm grateful that I got up early to go to CrossFit and I had a really good workout today. I'm grateful that I had a really good interview with a company. Um, and I'm grateful that I had really good food today. I had a really good lunch, I had a really good salad, things like this. But when you start being more grateful for the things that are already present in your life, you start attracting a lot more of the things that you want in life. So developing an attitude of gratitude is very good. So while I know that students may be zoomed down, they're like feeling a lot of Zoom fatigue because it is a lot of hours to be on a laptop. Your eyes can start hurting, your brain can start hurting. Think about it like this. You have a laptop. A lot of people in this world don't have a laptop because they live below the poverty line and their parents can simply not afford them. Some of them may not even have parents. Um, you have access to Zoom for free. Zoom is such a great resource. If you don't want to be on Zoom for like, how do I say this? If you're like tired of being on Zoom, maybe try and find something different. Like maybe you could use Zoom to like speak to potential mentors. So yeah, just looking at it from a different viewpoint. And yeah, just really being grateful for what you have in life. I really wish that this was something that I knew way earlier on in life, but nobody was talking to me about no gratitude while I was in high school. I didn't even know what the word gratitude meant, if I'm being completely honest. But I really do believe that once you implement an attitude of gratitude, your life starts turning around like that because you're like, oh my gosh, all of this exists around me. Like, where was this before? And it's like, it was always right in front of you. You just didn't take the time to pause and really admire it for what it is. So I would say definitely be grateful, definitely get your rest. I think while you're young, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, what is it called? It used to be called vamping back in my days. Back when I was younger, it was called vamping, which means staying up all night and then not having no sleep and just going on about your day. No, get your rest. Getting your rest is so important. I see a lot of people in my life now that they're like, yeah, I sleep like 3 hours a night. And I'm like, 3 hours a night? You're crazy. You need to get at least 8 hours of sleep every single night. I am very keen on that. I was just on vacation and my friends were like having 3 hours of sleep and I'm like, good night. And I clocked out early because quite frankly, I was like, you guys can have your fun, but I prioritize my sleep because that makes you that it's a part of health. It really is. So prioritizing your sleep while you're young, take advantage of that because the older you get, the more responsibilities you're gonna have to take on. And you're gonna have to maneuver like what responsibilities am I gonna take? Like when am I gonna sleep? So definitely sleeping and just know that whatever you want to do in life, you are capable of. I don't care what anybody tells you. I don't care if your guidance counselor told you not to apply to that college. You better apply to that college. You better. And if you wanna, I don't know, if you want to apply to a job and you feel like you're not qualified for it, still do it. Still do it. Whatever you want to do in this lifetime, give it a try. It does not hurt you at all to try. And the last thing that I will say is that you miss 100% of the shots that you do not take. So shoot that shot.
Great. Well, I thought that was really great. Now I'm going to give everybody a chance to ask their questions. So if you want to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask your question that way, or you can just throw it in the chat and we'll read it for you.
And y'all don't have to be shy. I will literally answer anything. Not all at once. Wow, y'all shouldn't have.
Were there times when you just like wanted to like give up everything that you were like about to do?
Oh, yes. While I was writing this book, I wanted to give it all up. And while I was in college, I wanted to give up. I just wanted to spend the rest of my days in bed. But what kept me going was ultimately my goals. So I've always been a very goal oriented person. Even if it starts off with one goal or two goals, something small, don't overwhelm yourself. But definitely being a goal oriented person kept me going. But there was days that I just did not want to get out of bed. Even this past month, honestly, this July that just passed was absolutely awful for me. I'm still grateful that it happened. I'm still grateful for the month of July, but it was a really terrible month for me. I spent the one majority of the month in bed, if I'm being completely honest. And I was like, I hope my mom doesn't realize how depressed I am if I'm being completely honest. But then ultimately I was like, you're creating the life that you want essentially. So I just had to get up and just give it all I got. But I needed time to rest. I was definitely overworked. So I took the time out in July to just sleep and just be in my thoughts and journal and get all of that down on paper. And then August came and a flame lit under me. And I'm like, okay, it's time to get your stuff together now. You have goals to achieve, and although it was a bad month, it doesn't mean that it's going to be another bad month or it was a bad couple of weeks, but you learned what you needed to do. You rested. Now it's go time. I hope that answers your question.
We have some questions that came in the chat. The first one, did you always want to write a book?
I did not actually. I'm not even a good writer, if I'm being completely honest. I've never been a strong writer. I got told my freshman year of college that I write the way that I speak, and that wasn't a good thing. And I got recommended a book on how to write because at 18 years old, I did not know how to write correctly. And English is also not my first language, so that was another roadblock for me. Um, but yeah, I didn't always plan to write a book. It literally, I tell the story all the time. I was literally in the shower listening to Oprah's Super Soul Conversations podcast, and the idea came to me out of nowhere, literally out of thin air. I was listening to the podcast, and all of a sudden it was like, you should write a book. And I'm like, and it was like in my own voice. I was like, what? And that's how the book came to be. But I did not have plans of writing a book at all. Um, how many how many drafts did you write when writing your book? Um, So there was several. I can't give you an exact number, but it was a continuous process. So for me, I like to break things down. So I started off with the table of contents. I made the chapters like random titles. And that just ended up being the final titles for them. But then I started off with chapter one, and I'll write chapter one, edit it, revisions. I had to work with several marketing revisions editors. So it'll just be chapter by chapter. And in total, my book has 11 chapters. So I just had to go chapter by chapter and just have them build one upon the other. Do you plan to write another book? Yes, I do actually. I want to write an updated version of this book, but that's not going to happen for like another 2 years. But I want to write a cookbook. Completely random. I want to write a cookbook because I realized that being Dominican, there's a lot of foods that we eat that are unhealthy. There's a lot of chronic diseases within the Black and Brown community. So I want to essentially make our favorite dishes, but healthier versions, because I'm a really, really good chef. So I want to write another cookbook and then another version to reroute, and hopefully more books in the future after that. When you're writing a book, what makes you give it the certain title it has? Um, so the title actually came through the man that runs the program. He read my book and he goes, "You know what you should name your book?" I said, "What?" He said, "Reroute. You mention it a lot in the book. And I think it's for a reason." And he told me, he's like, "Name it Reroute." And then I'm like, you know what? I don't know how I feel about that. I think that sounds awful. And then I had to really sit there and I'm like, is Reroute really a good title? And eventually I sat with it for like a week and I'm like, that's a good title. I'm gonna go with it. And then Postgrad Guide to Success, physically, mentally, and financially. I put Postgrad Guide to Success because I wanted people to look at the book and automatically it click in their head, like, okay, this is a postgrad guide to success. It's gonna help postgraduate students. It's gonna help undergraduate students as well. And physically, mentally, and financially, I put it very strategically in that order, because you need to be physically well to then be mentally well to then be financially well. So there's levels to it. What were your other plans? Like, what did you want to be instead of an entrepreneur? I wanted to be a pediatrician when I was younger. And then I went to Binghamton and there was a reality check. I realized I was no longer interested in taking that route. And then I thought that I was going to be the next Beyonce. And I started taking music classes. I've been singing since I was 8 years old. So I was going to go major in music. I took one music class and it was the most boring class that I've taken probably ever. Dropped the class, realized that I was not going to be the next Beyonce. And that's okay. Um, and yeah, I guess I didn't really know throughout the one majority of my life what I wanted to be. I was just going with the flow, which goes into the next question. What did you major in college? I majored in Latin American and Caribbean area studies. The reason for this was because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I At one point I thought that I was going to get my master's in social work and then go be a guidance counselor, because I love students. I really do. I think y'all are the future. I think y'all are bright, and I don't think people give y'all enough credit. So I wanted to be a guidance counselor because I felt that I would be a really good person to give them hope and give them inspiration. I quickly realized that I was tired of school, and because I've been in school straight through, no breaks since pre-K. So I decided to put that on pause and didn't go after my master's. And I also went to open houses, and it didn't resonate with me the way that I thought it would. So I was just like, I'm not gonna do that anymore. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Latin American and Caribbean area studies. The reason I majored in that was because I wanted to find out more about my roots. I realized that while I knew that I was Dominican, I didn't really know like where Dominicans came from. I didn't know the whole entire ancestry behind it. I didn't know our history. So I wanted to learn more about Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, and all these countries. And that's why I majored in that in college. And it was an amazing major, and I do not regret my decision at all. What advice would you give to students who struggle writing or think that they can't improve? I will say that don't have a fixed mindset, have a growth mindset, because um, if I would have stayed stuck with the idea that I couldn't write, or if I would have listened to that professor that told me that I didn't know how to write, this book wouldn't have came to life, if I'm being completely honest. So drown out the noise. I tell everybody, if it's something that's negative, drown out the noise and just sit down and focus. And writing is something that you could develop over time. Like I said, I've never really been a good writer. I still don't think that I'm all the way a strong writer, but I write blog posts all the time. I just wrote one yesterday. Um, I love writing all the time. So just you need to believe in yourself. That's also something that I meant to mention earlier. You need to have unshakable faith in yourself. So, like, no matter what anybody tells you, it is not going to phase you because you stand so firmly in what you believe in, and you stand so firmly in yourself because you know that you are popping and you are a great individual. You are a well rounded individual. So, don't think that you can't improve because you definitely can. If I did it, you definitely can. Would you like to return back to school? You know, I think about this quite often. This is a question that I ask myself like every single day. Um, I think yes. Not right now though. I would love to go after my PhD someday, but right at this moment, I don't think that I want to go back to school just because I'm focused on other things. What would you tell students who are interested in becoming a doctor, getting an advanced degree, but cannot see themselves going through all those years? I would say you need to take it one day at a time. Like that, I see a lot of people saying, like, oh my God, but like I'm like 30. I can't go after a degree now. Who said that? Who said you can't? Nobody. Okay, so nobody said that. So who, like, you need to really be able to drown out the noise. And if it's something that you really, really want to do, nobody should be able to take you away from that goal. That's your goal and your goal only. It's not anybody else's goal to achieve, it's your goal. So go after it. And remember that all those years is gonna pay off because quite frankly, I don't know everybody's background here, but there's a huge majority of first generation students coming up now. So think about it. Like you may be the first in your family to be a doctor. You may be the first in your family to be a lawyer. You may be the first in your family to be an entrepreneur. So just know that it's gonna be okay. If you want to do it, go after. Nobody should tell you that you can't go after something because it's not their goal. Did you ever major in writing or like take a class in it? Yes, I had to take several writing classes while I was at Binghamton University. Um, and they were difficult for me. I'm not even gonna lie. I also wrote a lot because my major was mostly essay based. I also chose this major because I'm not a good test taker at all. So I was like, what's the major that I could do that I think that I could do the best in? And that was this major too, which aligns perfectly because I wanted to learn about it anyways. But yeah, I did a lot of writing, a lot of essay writing, um, a lot of writing in different languages as well. So I wrote a lot in Spanish. My senior year, I took a lot of Spanish classes. So that was very challenging for me because I hadn't written in Spanish since like my junior year of high school, but it all ended up turning out great. If y'all have any more questions, feel free to ask. And y'all don't only have to ask me about like rating and stuff like that. I did cheerleading when I was younger. I love sports. I'm very active. Um, what else? I love cooking. I think cooking is very therapeutic. I used to be the mom of my friend group. So I used to cook for over 20 people every single day while I was at Binghamton University, whilst having my responsibilities. So I was cooking for like, I used to call them my children. My friends were my children because they used to be like, oh my God, I'm not gonna eat, or like, I haven't ate anything today and it's like 9 p.m. I'm like, are you crazy? And then all of a sudden I'll have a plate of food ready for them to go. Um, so yeah, I love cooking. I'm really big into music. I'm also the DJ of my friend group. I have many talents. I'm very, excuse me, into music. So into different types of music. I think music is something that connects us regardless of our background. So you could be white, you could be black, you could be Latino, you could be brown, and we're all gonna like Michael Jackson, for example. Like I just think music and food is something that connects all of us no matter what. Yeah, I'm like, if you guys have any more questions, if not, it's completely okay. But I really do appreciate all the questions that y'all have been asking.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions coming in. Thank you so much again, Geraldine. This was, really valuable. I'm glad our students had a lot of opportunity to ask you whatever questions they had. I don't know if you feel comfortable putting your contact information in the chat if anybody wants to follow up or anything like that. But feel
Yes.
free to do so. And
Um,
thanks to all the students for coming.
that's my email. And if you want any other piece of information from me, just email me and ask me what you want. But I'm more than happy to mentor all of you if y'all are looking for a mentor. I think it's nice having somebody that's like not exactly close in age to you, not exactly your age, but close enough in age to you to help give you guidance. And I believe myself to be overly optimistic. There's a lot of realists in this world, but I'm overly optimistic. Like I tell everybody, go after what you want. One of my friends the other day was like, I need to fundraise $10,000 in 30 days. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, you're gonna do it by doing it. Like you're gonna raise over $10,000. And he's like, you're the only person that told me that. And I'm like, yeah, because I believe in you. That's why. So if you ever need a spur of encouragement, inspiration, or just somebody to talk to about whatever you're going through, I'm definitely here. And feel free to email me. I check my email very, very often, like every day. I have it on my phone, so I'm always looking at it. But yes, thank you all so much. And thank you, Sophia, for giving me this opportunity. I feel very blessed and very grateful for this.
Of course, of course. All right, thanks.